Hello students, this is lesson U2A01b. In this lesson I will go over exercise U2A01b, and we are going to be solving for the roots of these quadratic equations, either by factoring or by using the quadratic formula. So let's take a look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the list here of all the even questions, starting with the number 2 here. So again, I'm trying to solve for the roots, which means I'm solving for all the x values that will cause this to go to 0. So what is that? The approach is I'm going to factor out the GCF because I notice there's a GCF here. And what I'm looking for now is an x value that will cause all of this to go to 0. Well, the x value that will cause all of this to go to 0 is 0 or positive 2. Alright, moving on. So I have 3n squared is equal to negative 33n minus 72. I'm going to bring everything over to one side. So I have 3n squared plus 33n plus 72. And upon inspection here, I noticed that there is a GCF here. There's a GCF of 3. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot to write in, because after all, this is an equation. It's not just an expression. So there is a GCF of 3 that I'm going to factor out. So if I factor that out, I'm going to be left with n squared plus 11n plus 24 is equal to 0. And the goal here is to solve for what n is equal to, right? That will cause all this to go to 0. So if I were to factor further, are there two numbers that multiply to 24 but add to 11? Yes, indeed there is, and that is 3 and 8. So it's n plus 3 times n plus 8. So what are the roots then? The roots are negative 3 or negative 8. Moving on, I have 2v squared minus 32 is equal to 12v. So what is this? So I'm going to bring everything over to one side just like I did before. So 2v squared minus 12v minus 32 is equal to 0. There is, in fact, a GCF here. I'm going to factor that out. I have v squared minus 6v minus 16 is equal to 0. And from here, what I want to do is I want to factor this. And are there two numbers that multiply to negative 16 but then add to negative 6? And there absolutely is. That would be v minus 8 and v plus 2. Because negative 8 plus 2 gives you negative 6. So what's the answer for v then? What will cause all this to go to 0? That would be positive 8 and negative 2. Okay. And then we move to the next one. P squared minus 48 is equal to negative p. And again, same process. P squared, bring everything over to one side. P squared plus 2p minus 48 is equal to 0. And what I want to do, again, there's no GCF here, but are there two numbers that multiply to negative 48 but then add to positive 2? And that would be 6 and 8, right? But because it's negative, one of them has to be negative, the other has to be positive. So looking at the middle term there, it's positive 2. I know that 8 must be the positive one because when added together, I need the 8 to overpower that negative, right? So positive 8 plus negative 6 gives me positive 2. What is the value for p then? P is 6 or negative 8. Okay. Moving on, I have 10x squared plus 36x equal to 16. I'm going to bring everything over to one side. So again, same process. I have 10x squared plus 36x minus 16 is equal to 0. Is there a GCF here that I can see? There in fact is. 5x squared plus 18x minus 8 is equal to 0. So we'll get to this point here, okay? This is one of those questions where it's a little more complicated because you have that leading coefficient there. It's not 1. Well, what do you do? You can use the factor by grouping method, or you can try to approach this using a little bit of number sense. And I told you before in a previous video, I actually prefer using a little bit of number sense, just because I feel like you can sometimes see it. So if I place 5x and x there, and I need to get negative 8 as a result of this, right? So what are the different ways I can multiply to get 8? Well, that's 2 and 4. I need the middle number to be positive 18. The only way that that can happen is if I place 2 and 4 in this manner, right? And how can I get 18 though? Well, 4 times 5, that's 20. I need that to be positive so that when I subtract it by 2, I'll get positive 18 in the middle. So what would make x then? X will be 2/5 or negative 4. How am I getting 2/5? Well, that's 5x minus 2, right? Is equal to 0. So add 2 and divide by 5. X is equal to 2/5. All right, so moving on. Again, I got to bring everything over to one side, so I get 15v squared plus 4v minus 3 is equal to 0. This time there's no GCF, and the leading coefficient there is a little more complex this time because there are different factors of 15. However, if I look at the last number, that's positive 3 there, this is still relatively simple because that last number is prime. The only way that I can get 3 is, having 1 and 3 in that manner. I want the middle number to be 15. So what can I do? I mean, I want the middle number to be 4. What can I do to achieve that? Well, I can break up. I mean, two numbers that multiply to 15 could be 3 and 5 or 15 and 1. It would have to be 3v and 5v because 3v times 3 gets you 9v. And 9v minus 5v gets you 4v, right? So the middle here has to be plus, and this has to be minus. And this is equal to 0. So therefore, v would equal to 1/3 or negative 3/5. All right, moving on. I have 3v squared minus 16v is equal to 35. So 3v squared minus 16v minus 35 is equal to 0. And again, I want to solve this by factoring, okay? There's no GCF, so this becomes 3v and v because, again, 3, that leading coefficient there is prime. There's only one way that I can get 3v, and that is by having 3 times 1. I want to get 35. I want these two numbers to multiply to 35. However, I want the middle number then to add up to negative 16. So what can I do? So the multiples, or the factors of 35 is 5 and 7, right? I want the middle number to be 16. So the only way that I can do that is if I place 7 here and 5 there, because 7 times 3 is 21. 21 minus 5 is in fact 16. So therefore this would have to be subtraction, and then this would have to be addition. And this is again equal to 0. So what exactly is v? v is equal to 7 or negative 5/3. Okay, and the last one for this batch. So this is going to be 5r squared minus 14r minus 3 is equal to 0. So again, very similar. So this would be 5r, this would be r. I want the middle number to be 14, but then the last number is negative 3. So the only way that that's possible is 3 and 1. Because 5 times 3 is 15, minus 1, well, that's 14. So this is subtraction, and this is addition. So therefore, r would equal to positive 3 or negative 1/5.